have seen the future, but what has been going on up till now, up to the very minute? And to address these important questions, because it's important to know what the trend has been, I would like to request Mr. Christopher Lund, who is the Associate Director of Colliers International. Colliers International, ladies and gentlemen, is our knowledge partner for the Hotelier Summit GCC. Mr. Christopher Lund will share with us his research as to what has been happening in the business as of now, what has been happening in the last couple of months and years, and he will give us with updates up to the very minute, because that's what Colliers does, Colliers International, our knowledge partner, to provide updates up to the very minute. Without any further ado, please help me welcome Mr. Christopher Lund onto the stage, and that will soon be followed by a panel discussion, which will be moderated by Mr. Christopher Lund.
Hi, good morning. Unfortunately, today I only have 15 minutes to present the Oman tourism market. I could be here for hours, even days, because it's a very diverse market. But now we have 15 minutes and we'll make the best of it. So just a quick introduction first about who I am and what I do. So I'm a hotel consultant, but not just in hotels, in the whole tourism spectrum. So it goes from hotels, marinas, golf courses, spas, etc. And I work throughout the Middle East and North Africa. So I can see definitely the differences between the tourism in Oman and in, for example, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, Egypt, etc., the other big tourism destinations in the region. And there are definitely big differences in between Oman and these other countries, which we will get into a little bit more in detail now. First, I want to start with a few interesting facts about the tourism in Oman. Number one, which was already briefly mentioned, is the new tourism visa rules. And this has happened now since 2017. First, they relaxed the visa rules for 25 countries. Then for Indian nationals, it became easier to get on-arrival tourist visas if they had US, Schengen, UK, or Canada visas in their passports. So this obviously helps a lot. And visa policies is almost like the key to unlocking the tourism growth. So that's what happened last year. This year already there is now China, Russia, Iran that can get visas on arrival. And of course, the new system which has been implemented, online visa, which is very quick. When I applied for my visa to come here, it took 5 minutes to get the visa approval. So it's a very, very efficient system that they have in place at the moment. And that is definitely the key to grow the tourism as well in the future, and to unlock new markets that are not yet present in Oman. Another thing is, of course, the capital investments in tourism in Oman. There's a lot of investments happening, and this will just increase as we grow, especially now as the tourism vision is being launched 2040. There will be hopefully a lot of interest from investors in joining this vision and exploring the various opportunities in each of the pillars that are presented in that tourism strategy. Something interesting, if you look today at Oman, the top visitation is from the GCC as a combined GCC. Then if you look after that, India is the second, so it's a very big market. And then you have some of the European countries like UK, Germany, Italy as well, which are quite big as well. And another one, China, which is, the most India and China, the most populous countries in the world, but China is still a very small percentage today in the Oman market. But if you look going towards 2021, in the next few years, this is the annual growth in tourists from each of those countries that we foresee. So this is the projections that we've done, 17% annual growth in Indian national visitors to Oman, and 12% for Chinese visitors. Now, something that's interesting, now, just this month, the visa regulations were eased for Chinese nationals. If we look back at the UAE, visa regulations for Chinese nationals were eased in 2016. What happened in 2017? In Dubai, 40% growth of Chinese tourists. In Abu Dhabi, 41% growth in Chinese tourists. So this just shows how important these visa changes can be to a destination. And of course, I'm not saying that we will see the same kind of growth here, because Oman is looking at the tourism in a more progressive and sustainable way, I would say, than the other countries surrounding. And it's to find that balance between sustainability and a comfortable growth of tourism, which will be very important in the future. If we look now at the tourist arrivals to Oman, if we look at the past 7 years and the next 5 years, you can see the growth has been tremendous. Other than in 2011, there was a slight dip, but otherwise the growth has been in the double digits, and the high double digits even. Even the projection going forward in the next 5 years is still going to be double-digit growth in terms of tourism. So by 2021, we project around 5.7 million tourists to Oman as a whole. Now, in terms of supply, obviously, as you can imagine, the capital, Muscat, is where the majority of the supply is located. So this is a representation of the branded, international, regional, and locally branded hospitality supply. There's around 10,000 keys, which are internationally branded, spread across these markets. And if you compare that to the overall market, including the unbranded and locally managed hotels and service apartments, there's around 20,000 hotel and service apartment units. So obviously the growth from today until 2040, we saw that the number 80,000, which is a very big number, which represents approximately a 6% growth in supply year on year until 2040. And if you saw on the previous slide, the supply in the demand in the next 5 years is growing at 13%. So you already see that the demand is growing slightly faster on a long-term basis than the supply growth. So this is definitely good news for Oman. Now, if we look at trying to categorizing these branded hotels, what kind of hotels are they? Instead of just looking at 3-star versus 4-star versus 5-star, we've looked at, how many of them are beach resorts, how many of them are city center hotels, how many are airport hotels or mall hotels, etc. So you see quite an even split, actually, today in Oman between beach resorts and city hotels. Then you have some of the other categories, airport hotels, mall hotels, some cultural village hotels as well, desert resorts, which generally between 3-4% and less. And this is where a lot of the opportunity lies in the future as well, in these kind of cultural village hotels, even the city hotels and the beach resorts. This actually one of the areas for improvement which were identified in the Tanfit is increasing the number and quality of hotels for business travelers. So actually, if you see now, not based on the vision and the tourism plan, but based on actually what are the projects coming into Oman, if we look at by 2022, so in the next 5 years, how will the split be? The split in 5 years, you see there's a sharp increase in city hotels. There will be, of course, more beach hotels. There will be more airport hotels, mall hotels as well. with some key developments with, for example, Mall of Oman from Majd Al Futtaim. This is one of the key developments as well. And you see that there is now a focus on developing the hotels for business travelers as well, really to have quality hotels for these travelers. And that was one of the areas for improvement that were identified. And you see already in the next few years, it seems like this will be one of the points that will be addressed by the market. If we look at the same beach, city hotels, airport, etc., you will see the number of here beach hotels and city hotels are more or less the same in 2017, while if you look in 2022, there will be a very large number of city hotels, and the majority of these, as you can see by the color, they will come to Muscat, because obviously as a capital, with the new airport that just opened up, the OCEC conference center that will host a lot of big conferences, events, meetings, etc. That is part of why these hotels are now entering the market. Al Khuwair is one of the key districts for hotels now in terms of business hotels. That's where a lot of projects are being planned. And it's really like, I would call it the hotel district of Muscat. And you can see what's interesting with the beach resorts is that they're quite evenly spread within the Sultanate. So you can see the colors, it's quite evenly spread between Muscat, Salalah, Sohar, Sur, etc., all the way to Musandam and Musana, etc. If we look at actual performance of the hotels in the past 10 years, this is for the branded and quality hotels in the market. You will see that the occupancy rate has been relatively stable, slight up and downs, of course, because new supply comes in, demand grows, slows, economic cycles, etc., but relatively stable. If you look at the average daily rates, this is in US dollars, you will see in 2008 it was $257. Today, in 2017, it was $168, and what we are projecting for 2018 is $165. So it has gone down, but it's still very high if you compare it to other destinations. And this is also one of the areas of improvement that were identified in the Tanfid, which is the lack of price competitiveness for hotels. And this is why also, when you add more affordable hotels in the market, that's when the tourism demand will increase as well, because then you are increasingly targeting the mass market and tourists that couldn't afford previously to come to this destination. So now as the market is evolving, a lot of these hotels are coming in, even, and the list of hotels that are coming into the market, there is a number of 3-star hotels now in Oman coming. The latest announcement was actually just a couple of days ago by Omran, the Ibis Styles coming to Muscat. So that will be a very interesting project to see. One of the first high-quality 3-star hotels coming into the market. And you can see the demand projected for 2018, you will see that the occupancy will see an increase in 2018. Still price sensitive compared to last year, but there is an increase in the volume of demand, which of course then will translate into more F&B revenues, spa, and ancillary for all the tourism infrastructure as well. Now, this is Guest Experience Index. What does it measure? So this is a score out of 100 where the hotels have been rated on Booking.com, Expedia, TripAdvisor, more than 100 different travel websites, and they are all aggregated into one score, which we call the Guest Experience Index. So if you look back at 2017, where did Muscat hotels fall versus the regional destinations in terms of the guests' perceptions of the hotels: quality, location, price value for money, cleanliness, service, etc. It's a combined score for all these items. Generally, if you have a score above 80, that's a very good score. Now, you will see in 2017, the score in Muscat was 74, and I think that's already one of the areas for improvement that have been identified in the Tanfit as well, which is to increase not only the number of hotels, but the quality of hotels. Because of course, you know, if you think about Oman, you think about all these luxury high-end resorts, Shangri-La, you know, the Bustan, Ritz-Carlton, etc., which are all extremely high-end, sophisticated, very high-quality properties. But if you look at the overall, the market lags a little bit behind the rest. And this is where now a lot of new hotels coming into the market, it will be important for these to aid in improving the rating of the Oman hotel markets. And this will be a challenge for the existing hotels in the market as well, because with so many new hotels coming in, how can these old hotels keep up? Will they start renovations? Will perhaps some of the very small, very low quality hotels have to convert maybe into residential hotels because better quality hotels are opening up, etc. So this will be one of the interesting trends to see in the coming few years. If we look now at the rating, this guest experience index by star category, no surprise, the 5-star hotels have a higher score. So 87 out of 100 in 2017. Sorry, this was in March 2018. 87 out of 100. The good news, at least, all of these categories, whether it's hotel apartments, 3, 4, 5-star, they all saw an increase in 2018. So the guest satisfaction is improving in all categories of hotels. Similarly, if we compare beach hotels to city hotels, there is an improvement in the rating. So you will see that the beach hotels have a very high rating because these tend to be the luxury 5-star hotels with very high level of service, etc. While the city hotels, this is where there is that improvement of some of the hotels which is needed and which is coming in the next few years. Now to a different topic slightly. This is the asset price index. So here we track the average asset price for a typical hotel in each market. And we do this throughout all these markets in the Middle East. So if you see where Muscat is placed compared to the regional markets, this is the average asset price in US dollars per key for 5-star prime hotel and secondary hotel. Prime is generally the higher end hotels in the better locations, and secondary 5-star hotels are the lower end hotels with in more the secondary locations. So here you will see in terms of the asset prices, they range between $200,000 to $350,000 for the secondary and the primary 5-star hotels. So there is definitely a scope to increase the average asset price for these hotels, and this is where a lot of the investors in the market will look when either acquiring hotels or getting into development. Of course, when you develop a new hotel, you will hope that the asset price of your hotel will be superior than the average market because you're coming in with a better product, a newer product, perhaps a new brand, a new concept, etc. If we look now on the 4-star level, where the prices of the 4-star hotels as a hotel asset are placed in the market, so the secondary hotels and the prime hotels, they average around $120,000 to $150,000 per key in terms of the asset price. This is in line with the markets like Manama, Kuwait City, etc., and Fujairah, Abu Dhabi as well, not too far away. So of course, this is where, with all the new hotels coming in, of course, it may have an impact on the competition, which could pull the asset price down, but also it has an impact on the guest experiences, the performance of these new hotels to hopefully outperform the current market, which in that case would increase these asset prices in the market. Now, if we look at some of the opportunities, I do these kind of talks in Riyadh, in Khobar, in Dubai, etc. This page, normally, I struggle to put many images because, in a city like Riyadh, very corporate, there may only be one opportunity or two opportunities that we see as immediate opportunities. But Oman is a very diversified market, so it's very difficult to say there is one opportunity for investors. It really depends on the destination, on the type of hotels. But if you really look at the key opportunities from what we see, our investors having their eyes on, and what we see in the market, is still definitely the high quality economy and mid-market hotels. That is still a lack of in the market, very high quality 3 and 4 star hotels. And not just the boring, typical 3-star hotels you used to see 10 years ago. But if you see now the new concepts of 3-star and 4-star hotels, they're very exciting. Without adding cost to the development cost, you can add elements in terms of the design, in terms of the colors, without necessarily using expensive materials like marble, although I know there's a lot of marble in Oman, but without using very expensive materials and without using excessive space. It's all about designing very efficient spaces and a focus on the public facilities rather than the hotel room itself. Because as Oman is increasing the number of attractions and activities and things to do in the country, the tourists will be less focused and staying in the hotel room and more focused on spending their money on these activities and tourism experiences. Of course, in the resorts, you will always have the people who want to stay in the resort itself as well and to have that whole experience. But when someone is staying for tourism in a city, they will not really stay in the hotel much. They will be exploring outside of the city. And then, of course, you have all the opportunities in terms of culture hotels, in the villages, in the nature areas, in the wadis, all of those areas which already have the tourism attraction is already there. You just need to place that hospitality asset. But the question, of course, for the investors, which perhaps will be answered in the next panel, is it feasible? What about infrastructure in those remote locations? Is it possible? And what are the opportunities in those more remote locations versus in the already established city like Muscat? So this is the conclusion to this brief introduction about the Oman tourism market.